This on-demand tutorial will be covering the strengths domain. The strengths domain contains items 20 through 30. This domain differs from other domains because the scoring flips. Instead of looking at 2s and 3s being needs, we will be scoring strengths 0s or 1s. So where we would normally have left a note for a 2 or 3 explaining why that item is a need, we will be leaving a note for 0s and 1s to explain why that item is a strength. On this page, we see the strengths domain anchor box with all of the item ratings within it. Keep in mind that a rating of a 2 or 3 is not necessarily a negative, but rather just indicating that that strength does not exist or is unknown for that child. If you have a limited resources to put towards strengths, you would want to focus those that are the strengths that are usable. Some scoring guidelines. Generally, NA is reserved for children that are nonverbal and there is no adult that can speak on their behalf. Family, 20, and relationship permanence, 29, should always be scored. 22, educational setting can be scored NA if the child is not in school due to their age. And number 23, vocational, can be scored NA for children under the age of 14 and a half years old. The first item in this domain is number 20, family. This item is rating if a child is being concretely and emotionally supported by at least one person. That person does not have to be a bio parent. It could be a foster parent, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, etc. Looking at the rating score for this item, we see that a 0 is a significant strength. This would be a child who has at least one person that they can always rely on. A 1 is a moderate strength. This would be a child who has at least one person that they can usually rely on, but there may be some limitations. A 2 is a mild strength. There are known family members, but currently the child cannot rely on them for support. Note that a 2 on this item indicates that the family members have been identified, but currently is not able to provide emotional support. It's a potential strength that needs building. And a 3 is no strength. There are no known family members. Number 21, interpersonal. This item is rating a child's social skills, both with peers and adults, and if they are able to facilitate healthy relationships. Looking at the scoring on this item, a 0 again is a significant strength. The child is friendly and has close, healthy friendships. A 1 is a moderate strength. The child has a history of forming positive relationships with peers or adults. Children may have at least one healthy friendship and is friendly with others. A 2 is a mild strength. The child has some social skills that have the ability to create a healthy friendship, but currently do not have any. And a 3 is no strength. The child lacks social skills and has no history of positive relationships with peers or adults. Number 22, educational setting. This is looking at the child's school system and if that system in place is a strength for the child. This is not about how well the child is doing in school. However, if the child is struggling in school, is the school working with the child and or family to correct the situation? This item can be scored NA if the child is not expected to be in school due to age. Looking at the rating for this item, a 0, does the child have an IEP in place that is working well? Is there someone at the school who goes above and beyond to take a healthy interest in the educational success of the child? A 1, the child is in school and the current plan is effective. School works fairly well with the family to ensure appropriate educational development. A 2, child is in school but the current plan is not effective. And a 3, the child is either not in school or the school setting does not further their education. Item number 23, vocational. This item is rating vocational skills a youth may have. It is only scored for youth that are 14 and a half years or older. Children under that age group would be rated an NA on this item. Computer skills would be rated here. A 0 is looking at a youth who has vocational skills and is currently working with those skills. A 1, youth with pre-vocational skills or vocational skills, but has limited work experiences would be rated here. A 2 is a youth with pre-vocational skills, but who is not presently working in an area related to those skills. A youth with a clear vocational preference would also be rated here. And a 3 is a youth who has no known or identified vocational skills and has not yet expressed and future professional preferences. Item number 24, coping and savoring skills. This is looking at a child's ability to enjoy both positive life experiences and manage negative life experiences. This is independent of the child's current level of distress. A 0 is an exceptional psychological strength. Both coping and savoring skills are well developed. A 1 is good psychological strengths. The child has solid coping or savoring skills. A 2 is limited psychological strengths. For example, a child with very low self-esteem may be rated here. And 3, no known or identified psychological strengths. This may be due to intellectual impairment or serious psychiatric disorders. Number 25, optimism. This item is rating how positive a child is about their future. It is based on the child's view of their future. A 0 is a child that has strong and stable optimistic outlook on their life. The child is future-oriented. A 1 is a child who is generally optimistic. The child has some positive future vision. A 2 would be a child that has difficulties maintaining a positive view of themselves and their lives. The child may be overly pessimistic. And a 3 is a child that has difficulty seeing any positives about themselves or their lives. Number 26, talents and interests. This item is broadly based on talents including art, theater, music, athletics, etc. A 0 is a significant strength. A child who has received a significant amount of personal benefit from activities surrounding a talent would be rated here. A 0 is a child with notable talent. An example would be a child who plays a sport or a musical instrument. A 2 is a child who has expressed interest in developing a specific talent, even if they have not developed that talent yet. And a 3 is a child with no known talents, interests, or hobbies. Item number 27, spiritual religious. This item is rating a child or their family's involvement in spiritual or religious beliefs and activities. A 0 is a child who has strong moral and spiritual strengths. They may be involved in a religious community or have strongly held spiritual beliefs that sustain or comfort them in difficult times. A 1 is a child with some moral and spiritual strength. The child may be involved in a religious community. A 2, a child with few spiritual or religious strengths. The child may have little contact with religious institutions. And a 3 is a child with no known spiritual or religious involvement. Remember, this is not a negative. It's just a strength that does not exist for the child and not one that you would focus on. Item number 28, community life. This is based on the child's level of involvement in cultural aspects of life in their community. This could include schools, community centers such as Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCAs, etc., the church or other religious institutions in their community, Boy and Girl Scouts, etc. A 0 is a child with extensive and substantial long-term ties with their community. An example may be a child that is a member of a community group for more than 1 year, may be widely accepted by neighbors, or is involved in other community activities, informal networks, etc. A 1 is a child with significant community ties, though they may be relatively short-term within the past year. A 2 is a child with limited ties or support from the community. And a 3 is a child with no known ties or supports from the community. Item number 29, relationship permanence. This item is looking at the stability of significant relationships in the child's life. This most likely will be a family, but may also include other individuals. A 0 is a child who has very stable relationships. Family, friends, and community have been stable for most of their life and likely will remain so in the foreseeable future. The child is involved with both parents. A 1 is a child who has had stable relationships, but there is some concern about the stability in the near future due to things such as transition, illness, or age. A child who has a stable relationship with only one parent may be rated here. A 2 is a child who's had at least one stable relationship over their life, but has experienced some instability due to death, divorce, moving, or removal from home. And a 3 is a child who has had no stable relationships. The last item in this domain is number 30, resilience. This item is looking at a child's ability to recognize their strengths and their ability to use those strengths in time of need or to support their own development. A 0 is a child who is able to recognize and use their strengths for healthy development and problem solving. A 1 is a child that has limited ability to recognize and use their strengths for healthy development and problem solving. A 2 is a child that recognizes their strengths but is not yet able to use them to support their healthy development or problem solving. And a 3 is a child who fails to recognize their strengths and is unable to utilize them. On the next slides, we will be practicing some of the skills that we've learned in the previous slides. If you've not done so already, please go to the Northwestern CANS website listed on this slide to pull up a copy of the manual. How would you score number 20, family, for a child whose grandmother lives on the other side of town but is able to provide limited support? One, there is at least one family member with a strong, loving relationship who is able to provide limited or emotional concrete supports. If we look at the difference between a 0 and a 1 on this item, a 0 is a child who has at least one person that they can always rely on. And a 2 is that there are known family members, but currently the child cannot rely on them for support. In this example, we see that the child has grandmother that they can rely on, but that support may be limited because she's living on the other side of town. True or false? Number 21, interpersonal, should be scored 2 for a child who in the past had healthy friendships with peers, but once they got into high school, began running with kids who are a bad influence. True. The child has some social skills that facilitate positive relationships with peers, but may not currently have any healthy friendships. Remember, this item is not only looking at if the child is able to make friends, but whether those are healthy friendships. How would you score number 22, educational setting, for a child whose school environment and planning seems to be effective and ensures appropriate educational development? The preferred score would be a 1. A child is in school and the plan appears to be effective. School works fairly well with the family to ensure appropriate educational development. The reason that this item's preferred score is not a 0 is if we look at a 0, Keep in mind that that indicates that there's something that is going above and beyond. There's an IEP in place that is working well, or there's somebody in the school that is going above and beyond and taking a healthy interest in that child's educational success. True or false? A youth who likes to do hair and has expressed interest in doing this for a living, but is not currently doing so, would be rated a 2 for number 23, vocational. The preferred answer would be true. If we look at a 2 on this item, this level indicates an adolescent with some pre-vocational skills, but who is not presently working in any area related to those skills. This may also indicate a youth with a clear vocational preference. How would you rate number 24, coping and savoring skills, for a youth who is generally able to enjoy positive life experiences and manage distress? The preferred score is a 1. This level indicates a child with good psychological strengths. The person has solid coping skills for managing distress or solid savoring skills for enjoying pleasurable events. The reason that this item preferred score is a 1 is the word generally in this sentence. If we look at a 0, it is an exceptional strength. Both coping and savoring skills are well developed. How would you rate number 25, optimism, for a youth who generally talks optimistically about being returned home to their bio parents? The preferred score is a 1. Child is generally optimistic. Child is likely able to articulate some positive future. True or false? A youth who is not only interested in basketball, but also receives significant amounts of personal benefit from that interest would be rated a 0 on talents and interests. True. We see that a 0 is the preferred score for this one because not only does the child have an interest in something, but they are also receiving significant amounts of personal benefit from that activity. How would you score number 27, spiritual religious, for a youth who has a strong moral and spiritual strength and uses his strength for comfort during difficult times? The preferred score on this example would be a 0. This level indicates a child with a strong moral and spiritual strength. The child may be very involved in a religious community or may have strongly held beliefs or religious beliefs that can sustain or comfort them in difficult times. How would you rate a child on 28, community life, who moved to a new area within the past year but has become involved in a local Boy Scout troop? The preferred score on this would be a 1. This level indicates a child with significant community ties, although they may be relatively short, for example, the past year. We see that a 0 is that they have been a longer term ties to the community, more than a year. True or false? A youth who has been removed from their family should be rated a 2 on number 29, relationship permanence. True. A 2 is a level that indicates a child who has had at least one stable relationship over their lifetime, but has experienced other instabilities through factors such as divorce, moving, removal from home, and death. True or false? A youth who recognizes their strengths and is able to use those strengths for healthy development and problem solving will be rated a 0 on number 30, resilience. True. A 0 is a child who's able to recognize and use their strengths for healthy problem solving and development. If we look at a 1 on this item, we see that the child is limited in recognizing their strengths and using them for healthy development.